looking at here is just the cochlea. Remember the cochlea looked like that snail shell, right? It had all those units kind of stacked up on top of each other. And they were those repetitive units. What you see here is we're just going to concentrate on one of those units like we did in lecture. So you see kind of one whole layer would be this whole thing right here. And you see this superior duct right there and the inferior duct down here. So you can kind of tell where you're at based on this thin little membrane right here, that one line membrane made out of simple squamous. Remember that was the vestibular membrane, right? So above that you have the what? Vestibular duct. And then below that you had the cochlear duct, right? Remember the vestibular duct, was that bony or membranous?
Membranous.
It was bony, right? The vestibular duct is the part of the bony labyrinth. As is the tympanic duct, which is down here on the bottom of the unit, right? And then that cochlear duct was in the middle there. So being able to find that vestibular membrane, that really thin membrane, is going to kind of be your key, because you know that above it, the duct that has nothing is going to be the vestibular duct, which is part of the bony labyrinth. And then the duct right below it is going to be the cochlear duct, which is part of the membranous labyrinth. And it has stuff in it. It has this structure right down here. And this structure is going to be important because that's what's going to attach to the nerve, right? And then kind of at the bottom of that structure, you have what's called the basilar membrane, which is this thicker membrane right here, which separates the cochlear duct from the tympanic duct. Remember, the tympanic duct is also bony labyrinth. So the vestibular duct and the tympanic duct are both the bony labyrinth. And they're going to have fluid in them called the perilymph. The membranous labyrinth consists of just the cochlear duct, and that's going to have a fluid in it called endolymph, right? Remember, peri means on the outside, endo means on the inside. So remember, the outside ducts are bony, and they have perilymph in them. And then the inside duct is membranous and has endolymph in it. And the other structure to kind of take note of is this structure right here, which is known as the spiral organ or the organa corti. And the lump right here, mainly being the organa corti right there, is the structure that has the receptor hair cells in it. The mechanoreceptor cells are all within here, and as they bend and move because of the fluids vibrating and the membrane squishing them and all that kind of stuff, that's what's being transmitted as sound. You can kind of see the nerve tissue kind of coming off and leaving that. The other little membrane you can see kind of coming over it like a little wave right there. That's going to be the tectoral membrane. Now, that's a lot of membranes. So we have the vestibular membrane, the tectoral membrane, and the basilar membrane. And the basilar membrane is what the organa corti sits on, and yet it's getting squished kind of by that tectoral membrane, a little wave kind of cresting over it. So you can see kind of in another repeating unit, kind of right above that, again we see the same stuff, right? So what duct is this?
Vestibular.
Vestibular duct. What duct is this?
Tympanic.
Tympanic duct. What labyrinth are they part of?
Bony.
The bony. What's the one in the middle?
Cochlear.
Cochlear duct. What separates the cochlear duct from the vestibular duct? Vestibular membrane. What separates the tympanic duct from the cochlear duct?
Basal membrane.
Basilar membrane. What structure is sitting on the basilar membrane? Organa corti. What's this little membrane hanging out over the top of that? Tectoral membrane.